Londra'dan herkese merhaba. Bu bölümde petrol piyasalarına özel bir parantez açıyoruz. Oxford Enerji Araştırmaları Enstitüsü'nde kıdemli araştırma görevlisi, petrol piyasası uzmanı Bill Farren-Price'la birlikteyiz. Hi Bill, thanks for joining our program.
Great to be here. Thanks, Berfu.
We begin the week under the cloud of Iran risk. President Trump has built a significant military presence in the Middle East and warns Iran it has a maximum 10 or 15 days to reach a deal or bad things will happen. What do you think these bad things could mean? And how do you think oil markets can react in the immediate term?
Well, I think we've already seen the market reaction to the prospect of some sort of military action against Iran. The real question is not so much the military action against Iran, but Iran's response. And I think what the oil market is pricing some sort of Iranian response against either US assets in the Gulf or further afield, or potentially some of the Arab Gulf states that are so critical to not just oil trade, but the trade in liquefied natural gas, LNG as well, which all has to pass out through the Strait of Hormuz, which is a critical choke point that controls, maybe 20% of global oil supply and 20% of LNG as well. So it's not an insignificant set of risks. Your question is what will that US action look like? Of course, we don't really know, but it could entail cyber activities first of all, with no actual military action, or it could involve some sort of limited military action or something like that, or it could be even a sustained campaign. At this point, we have no idea. But like I say, the question is less what the Americans do, but more what Iran responds to that, in what way they respond to that.
So what do you think that response could be? Do you think that Iran has that capacity? And what would be the immediate reaction of oil prices? For example, with the closure of the Hormuz Strait, can we see prices over $100 or something?
I think if there was an attempt by Iran to close the Hormuz Strait in response to an attack, you would see oil prices surge, possibly over $100. Yes, but the question is Iran capable of actually closing the strait to commercial shipping for any period of time? And I think the expectation is that they are not able to do that. So I think what we would see is a short-term bump higher in oil prices, but that would actually be a short-lived feature, and actually we'd see prices come back down. Don't forget, of course, that there are some fairly bearish factors already existing in global markets, global oil markets at the moment, not least the fact that supply, it looks stronger than demand, and we're expecting some sort of build in stocks over this period that we're in at the moment. And on top of that, you have the latest US tariff developments, which are a big dampening impact on global economic activity, and that could limit the demand for oil even further. So the oil prices are kind of being pulled between two forces at the moment. One is these kind of bearish exogenous macroeconomic factors, and the second one is this kind of short-term headline-grabbing Iran situation that we're looking at.
So on the one side, we have the geopolitical risk of military action towards Iran. And on the other hand, we have this US new tariff decision offsetting growing fears of a military escalation in terms of
Yeah,
markets.
that's right, to some extent. I think in terms of, you asked also about the diplomacy between the US and Iran, and that's really important. Iran are seasoned experts at negotiating with the West over their nuclear program and other matters. I expect that they will seek to play for time and extend this process over a period of time. They are very, very capable negotiators. The US approach is less, shall we say, diplomatic, less specialized. It's more involved with the exercise of threat. And we have to see how successful that is. It may well be that it's impossible for them to come to any meaningful outcome that has actual legs to it, and it could be that that increases the risk of some sort of military action between the two sides.
So, Bill, you're an expert in oil markets for over like 35 years or something. Am I
Yeah,
correct?
pretty much. I know I
So,
look young, but yes, you're right.
so what do you say? Do you see a genuine diplomacy at work? And do you think the markets currently believe diplomacy will prevail?
I think the market is sitting on the fence, and I think those of us who've watched Iranian diplomacy in the past will see that the leadership will want to avoid confrontation, but not at any cost. And really, what they are concerned with is their continued survival as a leadership group and a regime. So they will make a decision about whether they can pull off a deal, and whether it's going to be sufficient. But I also believe that Iran is a big country. It has a big security system, and it will be quite difficult for the US to overcome Iran in just using air power. So I think. We're going to see headlines, but I'm not sure that we're going to see the sort of change that we saw, for example, in Venezuela, where the US was able to carry out a much more targeted and sort of surgical action against the Maduro regime.
So, how much chance do you give to diplomacy and how much chance do you give to a military action?
I would say I'm with the oil market. I'd be about 50-50 at the moment. I think it's undecided.
Okay.
But we'll know fairly soon. I mean, President Trump's timelines are notoriously flexible. So when he says 10 days, it could be a month, it could be longer. We don't know. But one thing I do know is that US negotiators will be facing off against a very, very experienced Iranian team who know what they're doing.
So, how much geopolitical risk premium is currently priced into the brand? Is it close to $3, $5, or $10? What do you say?
I'd say it's about $10 at the moment, and it could go higher. The prices are up about 20% from the $60 that we saw, earlier in the year, when all of those slightly more bearish fundamentals were playing out. So I think the market is pricing some level of risk right now. But like I say, I think the prospects for a sustained loss of either Iranian oil exports, which also have to go through the Strait of Hormuz, by the way, and or the loss of Gulf Arab exports is probably pretty limited. I don't see any realistic expectation that Iran would be successful at maintaining a blockade on the Strait of Hormuz for any period of time.
What about Turkey? How do you think neighboring country Turkey might get affected?
Well, Turkey's always has lived in this unstable neighborhood for forever. So Turkey's kind of used to these issues. Turkey has become more of a serious power in terms of its regional diplomacy and its influence. I think the concern in Ankara will be around the economy, the impact of potentially sustained higher energy prices, which of course exacerbate inflationary issues in the Turkish economy and issues around the currency. But I think I would be optimistic that Turkey can also potentially play a diplomatic role here, as it has done in the past in conflicts involving the Gulf countries.
Do you think Turkey is more vulnerable in terms of energy imports or regional instability? What do you say?
Well, both. I mean, that one is a function of the other. Turkey is definitely at the crossroads of a lot of transiting energy, either from Central Asia, from Russia, and elsewhere. But it's also, it's also a big consumer of energy, and so it is affected by instability in the region that can affect those flows. But it's also potentially, as we saw with Syria and Iraq, it has borders that are can be put under pressure as well. So Turkey will be on alert to try to contain the geopolitical risk of the situation, to exert its regional influence effectively, and to limit any economic impacts that come out of this situation.
Fourth anniversary of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. What do you say on this in terms of, do you think Europe could absorb another energy shock?
I think actually Europe's kind of proven that it's very capable of absorbing energy shocks, but it's not just Europe; it's the rest of the world as well. 2022 and Russia's invasion of Ukraine proved to global markets that Europe is a premium market for gas, and is able to absorb these kind of shocks, not without cost, but it was able to absorb the shock. I think the issue is that we are living in an increasingly unstable geopolitical landscape, and that the risks of unintended consequences are as a result much higher than they were 5 years ago. And that is the lesson that we learned from Ukraine. It's also the lesson that we're learning from the second Trump administration in the US.
And short answer, please. Do you still believe that the era of sustained $100 is over? And what is your short-term forecast for oil markets?
I don't do forecasts for oil markets, but I would say that if it did go over $100, it would be short-lived, because ultimately the market fundamentals and the macroeconomic environment are probably more important, and they would come to reassert themselves. So if there is a breakthrough, and this is the important point, if there is a breakthrough on the diplomacy side, then we would expect to see oil prices fall.
Bill Farren-Price, thanks for joining our program.
Great to be with you. Thank you.
Oxford Enerji Araştırmaları Enstitüsü'nde kıdemli araştırma görevlisi petrol piyasası uzmanı Bill Farren-Price'la buluştuk. Sözü İstanbul'a bırakalım.